Welcome into the DNVR Rockies podcast, brought to you by Strava Craft Coffee. Strava CBD coffee is infused with both CBD and CBG. Can be delivered to your doorstep every 2, 4, 6, or 8 weeks. And now you can get 25% off your first purchase when you go to StravaCraftCoffee.com. When you use code DNVR25. I'm your host, Patrick Lyons. And joining me today is one of our friends from the Coors Field press box, Danielle Allentuck. How you doing today, Danielle?
Good. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you coming in on a lack of rest, as we were all up late last night with our fingers crossed, hoping that perhaps a deal gets done, and hoping perhaps that you hear our producer will just jump in and say, guys, there's going to be baseball. But do you think that's going to actually happen at some point today?
I mean, I hope so, but no, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't like to think of myself as being pessimistic, but just when you look at how everything's laid out, it just doesn't seem like it's something that's going to happen just yet.
I mean, I think none of us really know what's going on in the meetings. I mean, we're just getting tiny clips of information out, but it doesn't feel like they're close to me. It doesn't feel like we're going to have a deal today.
I sort of feel like if the players are really going to do what they set out to do, which I think is a large undertaking in general, but if they kind of continue to creep more and more closer to what the owners have put on the table, this could be bad. So they're getting closer and closer, but at a certain point, I think the players are going to say, I know we're really close now, but we can't go any further at this point.
I agree, especially with all the plans that players are making. You know, the training sites set up in Arizona and Florida, they're ready for a fight. They're prepared for this. So I think opening day is in jeopardy. I think we'll know later today.
Yeah, and I think you've got the entirety of this week really to hammer something out and still save opening day. The thing I kept coming back to as a slogan, in a sense, was we've been hearing a lot about progress. Progress is not proximity.
Right.
So, hey, you're getting better. You're doing really well. It's like people going out there and first of the year, I'm going to start walking and I'm going to start jogging. You're making progress. Are you close to being in marathon shape? Maybe not. And so that's my way of looking at it to a degree.
And you would know that, being a marathoner.
Thank you for pointing that out. That would be correct. So let's talk about your career. You went to Ithaca College, and that's kind of notable because it's the same college as one of our good buddies here at DNVR, Drew Goodman.
I did. I didn't know that until halfway through the season, but also Mark Stout, who does the pregame show, sometimes sideline, he also went to Ithaca.
That's true. Carl Ravitch. Some notable names. What about Ben Feldman? Does Ben Feldman do anything for you?
Not at all.
See, here I thought that was going to be like a big one. He's an actor. Well, he was on NBC's Superstore. I think I remember him most from Silicon Valley. But he's from Maryland. So I'm like, this guy checks off all the boxes.
You know, I'm not quite hip enough to know that. I don't know actors very well.
You're originally from Maryland, though, right?
Yes, I am.
And so you grew up as an Orioles fan.
Well, so the Nationals came when I was 7.
Oh, okay.
So my family kind of was one of those families who kind of ditched the Orioles and went to the Nationals.
How did that work? Where they just decided, man, the Orioles are breaking our hearts. Peter Angelos was kind of maybe a little bit irksome, and you went the National League route.
I don't really know if I remember. I mean, I remember going to opening day in 2008 and just being like, okay, I'm a Nationals fan. I think my family just got tickets, and I was like, cool.
There you go.
We were much closer to D.C., so it was easier.
That's true, yeah. And what's baseball going to be like in the Capitol without Ryan Zimmerman now?
I know. I think my grandpa was so sad. I don't know if I've ever seen him that sad about a player. He loves Ryan Zimmerman. But I don't know. I mean, they have Han Soto. And so, I mean, they have a bright future in 5 years. They'll get there eventually. And
obviously, you got to be a biased journalist, but there are certain teams when they come to town, you get a little bit more excited, either because there's players there or whatever. You had to wait all season. He's had at home, and you did get to see Juan Soto there, so that was pretty cool.
I think it was even cooler for me when I went to DC this year, and I got to cover a game there in a stadium I grew up going to, and my parents went to the game, and they posted a picture on Facebook, and they were so proud. So I think that was the cooler part to me.
Yeah, no, that's true. Did you get a nosebleed from sitting up in that press box?
It's so high. It's so hard to see things.
It's really bad. You don't even bother looking at the ball off the bat. You just look at the left fielder and look at his reaction, and that's how you know if it's a home run or not. It's like, again, if you sit behind home plate, every fly ball, you're standing up going, oh, he got all of that one. And meanwhile, you just see the shortstop jogging backwards, and you're like, that's a pop-up.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to gain that perspective there.
I think like Ryan Feltner I thought he was throwing a bullpen and I could watch it from the press box, and then he got optioned to Albuquerque. And I texted somebody, I was like, am I not watching Ryan Feltner throw a bullpen right now? And they were like, no, you're not. They're like, I was like, I can't see anything from up here. Like, I have no idea what's going on.
You should have had Thomas's binoculars. Thomas Harding, he usually brings the binos to see who's warming up in the bullpen.
See, he was late that day because he got the time zones messed up.
Really? That was his excuse, at least.
Yeah, he forgot to change it in his calendar.
You know, the travails of being on the road and figuring those things out. So one of the cool things you did, and we don't have to obviously dig into the details, but you were recently, a couple years ago, you were in Siberia, right? I think covering the World University Games. What was that like, and what is the World University Games? Because it sounds like it's a pretty big deal for the most part.
Okay, so it was exactly 3 years ago because I've been getting the Facebook memories pop up. But it's basically the Olympics for college age students. So you have to be between 18 and 24. A lot of people pull from like their national teams and stuff like that. And it's basically just an international competition for people, you know, in the off Olympic years. So it was a very cool experience. Siberia is a city for people who don't know. It's not in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. It is a very big population there.
And it was in March though.
Yes.
Oh wow! So it was still pretty cold.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I got hypothermia a couple times.
Oh really?
Because you would like spend, when you cover like a big event like that, you just go to the mountain and then you're kind of stuck there all day. So I was covering, I think, ski jumping. I didn't have any gloves because I'm an idiot. Oof. And you know, you're trying to take notes and you're trying to write, and my hands turn purple and we're shaking a lot.
If it makes you feel any better, I once left gloves on the lift when I was skiing, and the instructor said, I'm not going to train you if you don't have gloves on. And so I was able to figure it out. So is it typically like Olympic sports, or do they have baseball, dare I ask, or disc golf, typical beer pong? I mean, what are we talking about, the university games?
So there's a summer and a winter version. It's the same exact sports that you'd see at the Olympics. So I did the winter version. I was actually still in college, so I missed a whole month of school, which at the time seemed really cool. But yeah, I mean, they had ski jumping, cross country skiing, hockey, figure skating, everything you'd see at the Olympics they have.
That's awesome. Parlay that into, I think, a fellowship with New York Times.
Yes.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so I did that. I started 2 weeks there after I graduated college, moved to New York City. I think my first day at the New York Times was my first time ever taking the subway. So It was a very big day at first. But
scary.
Yes.
Yeah.
The New York Times was just an incredible experience. It's where I really learned I wanted to do this and be a baseball beat writer because they asked, you know, I was like, oh, I like baseball. And they're like, go cover the Mets. And I was like, okay, cool.
At no point you said, I said I like baseball. Why? No, baseball. So Yankees, right? No, Mets are a team.
This was like the exciting Mets year. Not in like that they were good, but in like they were kind of a shit show that year.
That's always enjoyable.
This was where like Mickey Callaway and a reporter got in a fight. Mm-hmm. Chairs were thrown. They hired a manager, and then they fired a manager, and then they hired a manager. So there was just a lot to do that year. Yeah,
I think you wrote an article about Carlos Beltran, a guy who I've actually seen him as manager at the 2019 winter meetings. That's not that it's necessarily a claim to fame, but I always like, I have a lot of family that are Mets fans. I said, you know, I've actually seen one of your managers in person because no one else has seen him. He was a manager in an off season and was gone in like, I don't know, 3-4 weeks, however long that tenure was, but it was very brief.
He had the intro press conference, and I think the winter meetings were right after that. And like beginning of January, I think is when everything came out. And the Mets, I mean, they took a couple of days because they're the Mets, but he was tanked eventually.
Mets being the Mets. I'm beginning to see that it might be a theme with some of the teams you might be covering. But moving on from there, Stephen A. Cohen then buys the team, and you're there for that. What is your thoughts been on Uncle Steve so far, his regime, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, I think the day they announced it was the day I'll never forget, just because we were about to go to the sports holiday party. And I remember I get this email and I turn around and I look at my editor. It's like, what does this mean? Like, it was not written in plain English. It was like, I don't know. I mean, I was still very new to this whole thing. He goes, oh, we need to write that. Like, very calmly. And I'm sitting there panicking. But I think he's done, I mean, it's too early to know like how they're going to actually do with these. But he's shown he's willing to spend money. He gets rid of people when they need to be get rid of. Like, he I don't know. I think Mets fans should maybe have some promise in them. I wouldn't say hope yet, but I feel like they're on the right track.
Yeah, I think when he took over, the expectations were really high. I mean, he set them really high, and you just thought immediately things are going to be a world better. And they haven't been, but he's done a good job to, as you said, there's been certain issues that he's handled really well. And I think overall, the organization probably is trending upward. And I think, yeah, in a couple years' time, it'll be like a no-brainer, like, wow, all right, Uncle Steve's doing a good job.
And you also have to remember, he inherited a team. You know, you can't just wipe everything off in your first year.
True. But Marlins did that. And that meant trading everybody on the entire roster and Derek Jeter, and now he's not there anymore either. The more things change, the more they stay the same, I guess. You also you covered sports, I think, in Buffalo for a little while too.
I interned there going into my senior year of college.
Bills Mafia? I mean, are we familiar?
Yes.
Are you consigliere in the Mafia? What are we talking about here?
They are crazy. I was there the summer going into Josh Allen's rookie year. So he didn't have the starting job yet. It was I can't even remember who the other quarterbacks he was competing with are, but it was a 3-person quarterback competition, and my job was to stand there on the sideline and track every single pass that everybody threw in a different colored pen, of course.
Naturally.
But like training camp was insane. Like they already loved Josh Allen. They already like swarmed him everywhere. You just like drive around town. It's like July, and like there's Bill signs everywhere.
Yeah. That's the only game in town. Did you ever get to cover any of the games? Or rather, did you get to cover a tailgate? I care more about the tailgates than I do the actual games themselves.
I did not. I actually covered a Bills game against the Jets, but it was in New York. So I didn't get to see true Bills Mafia.
Growing up, did you have like favorite authors or favorite journalists that, whether they covered baseball or otherwise, that you just really, connected with, that inspired you?
So like middle school, elementary school, John Feinstein has this like young adult book series, and it's about 2 teen reporters, and they go to events and they get this big story, and everybody freaks out because they're teen reporters, and I loved that series.
That's awesome. I love it already.
Like they go to the Olympics, they go to the US Open, they go to the Super Bowl. I don't know, it's just like, oh, I'm gonna be like them, and I'm like writing my own newspaper at home, like thinking I'm them. But then growing up, I mean, being from the DC area, just like everybody worked for the Washington Post, I was like, I want to be all of them. So like James Ragnar was one of those, and then I ended up working for him at the Times, and I remember telling him that I like grew up reading him, and he like hated me so much for that. But like just like they have such a strong baseball section there, so I just admired all of their writers.
Yeah, Chelsea Janes is another one that's doing big things right now, covering the lockout. I'm curious about this John Feinstein series. Did they like go back in time and cover like big events?
No, they didn't go back in time. It was just like,
oh, all right.
They were like made up scenarios.
Sure.
Like I think one time the Olympics was a doping scandal, and they like discovered it, which was like before the big Russian doping scandal came out.
Sure.
The Super Bowl was a cheating scandal, if I remember right. So
this is great. How many were in the series?
There was like 4 of them, but there's definitely more. There's a March Madness one.
Nice.
So I would definitely like reread them. I still have them all at my parents' house.
No, I am legit excited. So when I taught 3rd grade, I got into the Magic Treehouse series, and Jack and Annie. You hear us looking at me like, oh, okay, we're gonna do that. I remember being forced to read those. No, but like I remember they were up to like 30 at that point, and so I literally went through like my kids', their little library that they had that they could take books out of. Yeah. And I like read all like the first 25 in a weekend. This isn't bragging because they're like 85 pages and I'm an adult and these are books for 8-year-olds.
It's a humble brag.
But in fact, I guess. But I was just like enamored with it. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. And my mind's like, oh, well, what would I write? What's the next journey I read about Jack and Annie? And I think they like did. Like they went back, and there was a recent one where they went back and were hanging out with like Jackie Robinson. And I'm like, yes. So I need to revisit that. You need to revisit the John Feinstein series. Yeah. It's wonderful symmetry. You hear, did you read those books?
I did not.
I never read those either.
You're not hip to those. That's okay. Well, we don't force reading here at the DNVR bar on the corner of Colfax and York. We don't do that, but we do force you to have a good time, especially at any of our Nuggets and Avs watch parties. We got them going on all week long. You get a member-sized beer. Nice little upgrade on that. 50 cents for your first month at the DNVR.com. And, of course, an annual membership gets you a free shirt at DNVRlocker.com. And Hoops fans, the latest offer from DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NBA, is just too good to pass up. New customers bet just $1. That's all you got to do on any team, and you win $150 in free bets if they win. It's that simple. DraftKings Sportsbook customers can also bet on the NBA with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DNVR. Bet just $1 on any NBA team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code DNVR at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only, new customers only, minimum $5 deposit. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. Some other good news out there is that we've got Vodka TV. You can now watch Nuggets and Avalanche games on a Vodka TV. What is a Vodka TV? It sounds like evocative, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Clever marketing there, I would say. Look, it's just a new paradigm for TV delivery that's less expensive and more efficient while offering a superior picture than those legacy providers. Bottom line, they've got Altitude Sports. Need I say more? You can get this in Denver, Colorado Springs, Phoenix, Boise, Twin Falls, Idaho, the entire Rocky Mountain region. Most importantly, Altitude Sports. I mean, that's it. We've seen the numbers. Harrison Wind tweeted it out about how sad the ratings have been for Nuggets games. And it's not because you guys aren't passionate fans. It's because you can't watch those games anywhere. Now you can with Avoca TV. So go to Avoca, EVOCA.TV/DNVR and $25 per month plus a receiver. There's no contract, no hidden fees. Your price does get locked in for 2 years, and you can have all your Denver sports once and for all. Can't beat that. Nice little deal there. All right, Danielle, this year covering the Rockies, go from rooting for the Nats, covering the Mets a little bit. Buffalo Bison, did you have to do any of those games up there?
I did a lot. Saw Vlad Jr.
Oh,
his
wow.
first AAA debut.
Well, they've upgraded Salem Field since you've been there, but okay ballpark, right?
I always thought it was like kind of perfect. There was kind of downtown Denver. It's like the only sporting event you can walk to there. I guess hockey, but not in the summer.
Sure.
They were really popular. People really like going to their games.
Yeah. No, I like that. That stadium in particular got a lot of attention, and again, we'll see what happens with this lockout. I think minor league baseball is going to get a lot more attention, and so that'll be a lot of fun. We got to travel with the Rockies this year. First question, actually, before we go into that, fans want to know. I got to put you on the hot seat here. You ready?
Okay.
This is going to be a big one. Do you think Todd Helton is a Hall of Famer?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. That's the right answer. You don't have to back it up with a why. You could just leave it there at that, or you could get into the details, but that's the right answer.
So give it a couple years. Maybe by like 2025.
Yeah, that seems to be the number that a lot of people are pointing to. I think there's a chance he could actually get in next year just because of the names that are coming on the ballot. And if you say 1 to 2 guys get voted in every year, well, he had the second most votes behind Scott Rowland. So I'm thinking there could be that chance where he gets a major bump up. I don't know that we've seen someone go from like 52% to 75%. That would be, a lot in 1 year, but it's not crazy.
I'm not that confident for next year. I mean, I think there's kind of like a trend you have to do. Like baseball is very into their traditions, and the tradition is to increase your vote each year. So I think he will get there. Just take a couple years. 2025
is what I'm hearing. So start booking your plans for Cooperstown. Have you ever been up to Cooperstown? Well, you've been very close.
I have not.
Ithaca is at the bottom of the Finger Lakes.
Yeah, they're kind of on opposite sides of New York State. So I've been to the Little League area, and that's pretty cool.
Oh, in Williamsport? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that is great.
Haven't been to Cooperstown.
All right. Well, there you go. I'm sure you'll be covering Todd Helton there.
Give me 3 years.
Quite possibly. So what was your take? Who did you like on the Rockies that was either a fun interview or was just easy to talk to when you're like, all right, I got to talk to so-and-so. Oh, this will be a good day. This will be cool.
I feel like Ryan McMahon. You just sort of, he's a very chill dude. You kind of know what's going to come out of his mouth, but sometimes he says things and you're just like, okay. He's just like very easy to talk to. He like gives you anecdotes without you really asking for them. He's kind of an easy, chill interview.
Yeah, when Cargo left the team after the 2018 season, it was like, all right, well, who's going to talk to the media? And it was still way too early for Ryan McMahon. Yeah. But he was like the first guy that came up with like, I think he was going to do a great job with it. Trevor Story stepped up, did a great job. But now he's almost the guy. He's going to be the guy in 2022. We know Charlie's is great if you can get him, if you can stick around long enough. We'll see what happens with the clubhouses.
Yeah.
I mean, have you heard about his intense workout like routine after games?
Of course. I've sat there waiting for him for up to 30 minutes before. Yeah. After he plays a 9-inning game, no, he still has to get his work in, man. I also say Chassin is an amazing interview because he's just so happy to be there. Like, he knows everything about the organization going back like 20 years because obviously he's been there for that long. But he just like tells really funny stories. He like asks about your life. I know random things about his kid. His daughter used to be afraid of Dinger. So she was very proud when she was no longer afraid, and she was coming to the stadium one day when I was talking to him. He's just sort of a guy who's like a joy to talk to. He like puts a smile on your face.
Carlos Estevez is that same way where I wouldn't necessarily say happy-go-lucky, but he just always has just a positive aura about him and just a great guy. And he's a giant of a man. And yet you're like, what a gentle giant. He's going to be a guy where he's got one more year left of club control before he gets to free agency. So if that happens, that'll be one you go, oh man, that's just a good person that you root for.
He kind of cracks me up because he acts as like a big brother to some of the players.
He does.
Like Julian Fernandez, who got called up in September, he like watched Fernandez grow up. So he translated all of his interviews because it made Fernandez comfortable. But he's like cracking up jokes. They're having like a side conversation. Like, he's just like a little big brother to all those players.
Yeah, a few years ago, it was Tony Diaz who was the first base coach that would translate. We know Aaron Munoz has done it. But I really like the idea that players are really helping their fellow players out. Like, you could go get the official, club representative, from the Rockies front office that'll translate, or whoever it is, or Munoz. But they're just like, no, I'll do it for you. Like, we're all kind of doing the same thing here. We're all on the same team. It's weird to think players as our colleagues. Because in a degree, to a certain degree, they are in some ways.
Yeah, and Carlos is funny with it because he'll translate what somebody says, and then he'll pause and be like, okay, this is what I'm adding. Like, this is what you actually need to know that he didn't say.
He's like that. Did you get a chance to talk a bunch with Josh Fuentes?
I did, yeah.
He's another character that will just go off and say some crazy stuff, and he's very enjoyable.
Yeah, he was one of the first players I talked to in person because the first 2 months were on Zoom. But eventually, I hadn't met Bud Black, and it was like mid-May, and he like pointed at me one day and was like, come down. So I came down, and he wasn't out there yet. So Josh, your friend, just walked by, and I just like screamed at him. Because I was like, I'm just going to start screaming at players and introducing myself this way. So we talked that first day through like the little glass that separates you.
Right.
But he was always very good to talk to too. And even when he went down, got options, and then he came back for like one day, like he was willing to talk to me that one day about, his struggles and what happened.
Yeah, no, he's fun. He's, I think, the modern version of like Ryan Spilborghs, where if you think like, I don't know how long you have to play to eventually work your way into the booth at AT&T Sportsnet, but he has that kind of personality where you go, nah, there's a career for you.
Yeah, he's got the facial expressions for it too.
Yeah, he definitely does. He's fun. He's very enjoyable. So let's talk about actually going out on the road. I know for the first couple months of the season, kind of couldn't do it. I mean, you could, but there was really no general benefit to doing that.
Right.
We know the announcers couldn't do that at all. But then you finally started going out on the road. What was that? What cities really made the biggest impact? And you say, I can't wait to come back to this place again. Or maybe it was already a favorite location of yours.
So I had never been to California.
Okay.
So I started traveling a little bit after the All-Star break. So I did LA, Anaheim, San Diego. And like Anaheim was not my favorite. It's kind of a little boring if you're not going to Disney. And I went to San Diego. And it was the trade deadline, so I was locked in my hotel room for the first 2 days.
That's a bummer.
But then it was like that you could go to the beach before you covered a game, and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, I love water, so that was my favorite. I had really good tacos, and I just feel like I didn't really get to see San Diego because of the trade deadline. So I'm excited to go back and do the rest of my list.
Well, that's good though. That again, you did Anaheim. You saw enough to go, I'm gonna pass up. It's kind of like suburbs almost. It doesn't have its own personality.
Yeah.
It seems like from the little that I've been there.
And like I stayed right next to the stadium, and the only stuff in walking distance had drive-throughs, and none of the restaurants were open because of COVID. And I was like, I can't rent a car because I'm not 25. So I was like, they wouldn't let me walk through the drive-through. So I was like, this is so dumb, ordering Uber Eats from a restaurant that's across the street from me.
Yeah,
so it was just like a weird trip.
That's weird to say the least. But yeah, San Diego, probably my favorite city outside of Denver to go and visit. So that's kind of nice that you didn't get to do everything.
Yeah.
Check it off your list. You'll probably have to hit up the zoo at some point.
I know.
Zoo's fantastic.
Hopefully be going back in the beginning of April, but
fingers crossed.
See what happens.
What about LA? Did you get to do any Dodgers Giants series?
Actually didn't. I really want to go to San Francisco this year. That's on my list. I didn't do LA just because that was a 12-day road trip. And it was LA, Anaheim, San Diego, and I didn't want to be on the road for that long at once. So I stayed home for LA and then went to Anaheim.
I think you'll have a couple opportunities to see the Dodgers,
exactly.
to say the least. Yeah. The AL Central is where the NL West teams are matched up. Mm-hmm. So if we have the schedule as is, we're talking Detroit in April. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing you might pass that one up.
I think I'm going to.
Unless you want to, I don't know, go across the border and go to the Labatt Brewery Factory or something like that. No thanks. Cleveland, what's the other? Oh, Minnesota. I think those are the only two that they actually travel to. No, Cleveland. Yeah, Cleveland comes to Denver. Yeah. KC comes to Denver. White Sox come to Denver, and they also do go to Chicago because there's like that full week where they play. I think the White Sox for 2 games on Tuesday and Wednesday. They're off on Thursday and a 3-game series with the Cubs. So that might be, I don't know, is that too much of Chicago maybe?
I mean, I have a lot of friends there, so I don't think it'd be too much for me. But I kind of like it when they do that. Like, I know a bunch of teams do that with New York. They do the Mets and the Yankees at once. And then you don't have to go back and forth. It just makes it easier.
That'll make it easier.
You do change hotels, though.
Minnesota, I would like to get back to. I was there once for a game that was at the Metrodome, but I haven't been to Target Field. And I was planning on going there. I think it was 2020. They were originally on the schedule. And obviously the pandemic, ruined that. But I would love to go back to check out Target Field and kind of see that downtown area a little bit more. I hear good things about Minneapolis.
Next year, the AL East, which is what I'm excited about. To go to Camden Yards and Yankee Stadium and go to Toronto.
Hopefully, right? And it's not one that those teams are coming to Denver. It's a little bit of each, right?
Yeah. I mean, gotta hope.
Gotta hope. Yeah. Yeah. I hope it's not Toronto and Tampa. You get the schedule and you go, what they're going to be now. I think someone out there may know. I think the Rockies have only played like 2 series. I want to say maybe once, but only 2 series in Toronto ever. It's just worked out that way where they've missed them. And again, for a period of time when they had interleague play, you only played the same division. So it was AL West, NL West. So I think they've only gone to Toronto like twice. I think they're like 0-5, something weird like that. And then Tampa is another one. You go. Tampa itself, I guess, is okay city. I haven't spent too much time there, but the Tropicana Field, I'm gonna have to pass on that one.
Yeah, I can't say I have any interest in those. I would love to go to Boston. If we could do Boston, New York, and Baltimore, I'd be very happy.
That would be great. I would be good with that. I did get to cover a game in Yankee Stadium 2 years ago or 3 years ago now at this point, but it was like 105 degrees out with humidity. And it was atrocious. And they have an outdoor press box.
And there's no air conditioning.
No. I mean, they've got like fans like blowing.
But it's just blowing the hot air.
Yeah.
Camden Yards doesn't have air conditioning either.
Is it an outdoor press box?
It's really low too. It's like the lowest.
So you get a good view though, right? Mm-hmm. I think in San Francisco the view is on the low side too. I haven't been though.
I think there are 2 sections up. I think it's like it is at Coors Field.
Okay. Yeah, I hope. And the changes that they're making at Camden Yards as well is kind of interesting. What was your take on that? You don't mess with it. Like, just leave the stadium exactly as it is. Are you okay with taking out those few rows? It's 1,000 seats that they're taking out of left field. Was that kind of a disappointment maybe?
I mean, like, look, let's be honest. They don't have the best attendance. So, like, I don't feel like we have to worry about them, like, not having enough seats for people. But I don't know. I mean, I kind of like keeping it as is.
Yeah. Yeah, there'll be a lot of kind of lazy fly balls out in left field that previously had been homers that will now just be an F7. But if for speaking about lazy and getting some rest, We got to talk about Wana Optimal's fast to sleep gummies. You see how I did that, Danielle?
Yeah.
I'm
Wasn't
good at
sure
my
where
job.
you're going.
I'm good at my job. You're like, what? Okay. Maybe it kind of makes more sense that I'm shoehorning these words in there. No, but look, no matter when you take them, Wana Optimal's fast to sleep gummies, which you can get at Lightshade, 10, soon to be 11 Denver metro area locations. They are not going to leave you in a fog. It's not an over-the-counter medication that's loaded full of stuff that's going to knock you out. Not at all. 10 milligrams of CBD, a hint of THC, and like 5 to 15 minutes, eyelids start to feel heavy. You'll pass right out. It's great if you're taking a long flight or even if you just want a really solid nap. It's wonderful. Go to lightshade.com and get 25% off with code DNVR of your Wana Optimal's fast to sleep gummies or anything else that you want to get for that matter. And again, go to any of Lightshade's 10 Denver metro area locations and use that code DNVR. Danielle, did you follow any of the Eric K trial and some of the comments and I don't know the word that I'm trying to use, the confession of CJ Cron and some of his oxy use? Was that, is he going to get suspended is kind of my question. I don't think he will because they had kind of they had the ability to not have that held against them. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think that'll be the case, but that was a rough trial to say the least.
It's my understanding that he will not be suspended. There's obviously, from my understanding, been a little bit of behind the scenes action going on about it, but more so as like a, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again type of thing, and not in like a you're in trouble. It surprised me a little bit. Just sort of getting to know CJ a little bit this year, but also just sort of sounds like the environment they were in there.
Right. Yeah. Matt Harvey is going to be the one because he was also supplying it. Mm-hmm. Again, he said, look, tell us now and you're okay, but if you hold anything back, there's going to be a problem. So for what he was able to come forth with, I don't think that's going to come to fruition anyway. And
I think it was, I don't know if brave is the right word for it, but I mean, he's still in his playing career. He just signed a new contract and he did this, on the record, knowing that there could potentially be consequences. So yeah,
there's much worse things going on in the world, and the lockout isn't even one of those bad things. I think, to say the least. It's just been really frustrating to have to watch this and to really feel helpless. Whether you're a fan, whether you are a journalist or you're a broadcaster, you just have to kind of wait and see. And we like structure, I think, in the world. I know I enjoy structure, and now's the time where we should be in Arizona, or we should be, talking about some relief pitcher that came in the 7th inning of a game that no one really cares about. But hey, there's something there, and we don't have that right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were talking about before the show. It's like, I don't know if I'm in Arizona next week for minor league camp. I don't know if I'm waiting a week and a half to go for regular camp. Like, I have no structure in my life right now, and I love to be organized. I was I don't know if idiot's the right word, but being a rookie beat writer last year, I made a whole off-season calendar and planned out all my content for the year that went in the trash.
So you're all of your content for 2022?
I planned out all my off-season content. Did a bunch of interviews before the season ended, and now they're gone. People warned me, but did it anyways. But yeah, I think players are feeling it too. Pitchers don't know, like, should they be ramping up right now? Should they be getting ready to be able to throw 5 innings at a time like they would be if they were in spring training right now? So, I think pitchers have it the worst, honestly.
Yeah, that's something that you can't really do anything about it, but it's a shame because there's going to be players whose careers will effectively end if they come together on some kind of deal and there's only 3 weeks of spring training and they play even 144 games, whatever it is. If they only have 3 weeks of spring training, that there's going to be a lot more injuries. We kind of saw that a little bit in 2021 after the shortened season in 2020. That was fine for those 3 weeks because they only had to play 60 games.
Right.
But then immediately once they have to ramp it back up to 162, you see those injuries. And so for them to do it again with only 3 weeks of training possibly, it's going to be really bad.
And I think the problem is not knowing when spring training is going to start or the season is going to start. They don't want to start ramping up. Right. Or if they start ramping up, then they're going to have to take it back and then wait to ramp it up again until they know. So they're not, I don't know what their pitching schedules look like. I've just sort of heard pitchers are just sort of, staying steady right now, just kind of keeping their arm in shape, throwing a certain amount of pitches, but they're not beginning that ramping up process that if they're starting the season in 4 weeks from Thursday, they're not, they're going to have to ramp up pretty quickly.
Real quick, according to reports, negotiations are heading towards third base as we speak.
Okay, we're heading towards third base in the negotiations. All right, that's progress.
I don't know what that means really, but
I know it's all
approaching third base.
Oh, approaching. Or we're not even at third base yet.
Approaching third base.
All right, so there's a throw coming in from the right fielder, and there could be a play at third base. Maybe it'll be safe. If they're safe, who's gonna knock them in? And we got 2 outs. We definitely have 2 outs here. So a sack fly is not gonna get the job done here in this
taking
analogy.
this analogy really far.
What else do we got? Who's on the bench? Dick Momford. He's in the game right now. Mm-hmm. Oh boy. All right, so they're almost at third base.
And they have what? 3 hours left? 4 hours left?
Can you translate that into innings you hear? Are we at the 7th inning stretch? Where are we at?
All I've heard so far.
Well, we're already in extra innings.
Oh, okay. All right. We're in extra innings. Are we doing the runner on second base rule in this scenario?
I don't think so. I think we would be a lot farther along.
All right. So this is like postseason type of an analogy.
Classic baseball.
Oh, man. All right. So we're looking out into the bullpen now. Mm-hmm. Who's possibly left?
I think we're running out of relievers.
We're running out of analogies, too.
Sending Josh Frontis.
Yeah, that's it. If we're going to need a position player, I think you're right to come in. Get Andrew Miller out, Garrett Cole, Max Scherzer, get in a position player. Francisco Lindor is going to save it.
Yeah, get Kyle Freeland back in the outfield.
There you go. I think so. I think that analogy, we did a good job milking that thing for what it was worth.
Yes.
Man, yeah, it is frustrating too with the pitchers having to ramp up. And so my thought the entire time is, well, what they did in 95, because they only had 3 weeks of spring training, and they're only going to have a 144-game season, but they said, well, we'll expand the rosters. I think they definitely were 25-man rosters at that point. And I think they stretched them to 27, so they added 2 more guys, so that really pitchers. So your pitcher's only going to go 4 innings as a starter, maybe 5 if they're lucky the first 2 times around. So you're going to need some extra arms out there. But then that goes back to the owner saying, well, wait a minute. We're the ones that are going to have to pay for these guys, and these players are going to get service time. And I don't think something like that would hold it up. But at the same time, that now becomes part of this negotiation and this back and forth. You really begin to realize, how the sausage is made. Like, there are so many finite pieces of information that you have to kind of figure out, is this better for the union? Is it better for the owners? And it's difficult. And it just seems as if the players are going to get shorthanded a little bit. The owners they're playing hardball.
Yeah. The players want to play. I mean, I think they want to play a lot more than the owners want to play. I think the other thing with all this is that even if they have a deal today, spring training won't start for at least another 7 days. Yeah. And I think we're going to see players get stuck. I think there's going to be players overseas who can't get back. The Rockies have a number who are not in the U.S. right now. I think you're going to see players being signed like the day before spring training. The day before opening day, and having to train by themselves for all of spring training. So I think it's already a mess. And I think the players know that as much as it would suck if they get shorthanded, if they don't have a deal soon, it's going to be them who is going to get the shorthand of this.
Absolutely. And if they don't take the short end of the deal, in a sense, then they're going to be the ones held accountable. And that's really the PR game that I think MLB has played, to say, well, look, the best that MLB can hope for is sharing the blame in this, when I really don't think it should be as much of a shared blame. And you're right about the players wanting to play, because so much of this goes back to that pandemic season when the players were ready to play before July 23rd. And the commissioner was able to unilaterally decide, when the season went on. And there's all these safety protocols and stuff, which were legit. And so it's hard to know how much earlier they could have come back, but they were ready to come back sooner. Didn't happen. Then the owners, the next year in 2021, because ballparks couldn't have full capacity, they wanted to delay the start of the season. But again, players just wanted to play baseball. And I think that's really how we got into this situation. It was already bad enough after the last CBA, but the players couldn't play, so the owners pushed back the start of 2020. players pushed forward the start of 2021, and that's how we're in this predicament right now, where owners are threatening to cancel games.
Exactly. And I think players don't want that. They want to stay strong, but that's what I'm saying. They want to be out there. It's what they're paid for. They're not getting paid if they cancel games. I mean, owners will lose money too. But think of all the players who, don't make the millions of dollars. I think everybody sees Max Scherzer. I think there was an article about his Porsche that he drove in, but
yeah, that was weird.
There are so many players who just got added to the 40-man roster and they were making the AAA minimum last year. They're not making a ton.
Yeah, for every player that we think of as the superstar guys whose jersey you're going to buy, there's 3 or 4 players who they're lucky to make, previously with the league minimum being $500,000 more than that, $550,000, making like $1.5 million over the entirety of their career. So that's what those guys are fighting for. They're fighting for that majority, the guys that are on the lower rung. I mean, look, even if you look at the Rockies roster, look at how many rookies they had on the team last year, particularly in the bullpen. And you say, yeah, a lot of those guys are making the minimum.
Mm-hmm. I think we're going to see probably 2 out of their 5 starting pitchers next year, maybe 3 out of 6. So to go to 6-man rotation, they're going to be making the minimum.
Yeah, it's really only Freeland, Senzatella, and Marquez who are making any money. We still don't have. Do we know how much Freeland's going to make? Did he sign a 1-year deal, or is he going to arbitration?
He's going to arbitration.
Yeah, these are all the things. I'm like, I don't remember him signing. So, man, there's going to be a lot of paperwork that has to get done. The Rule 5 draft is going to go on a week after they sign the CBA. They got to figure that out.
Or it could be canceled.
Have you heard that?
I don't
Interesting.
I don't think anything's been decided.
Of course. Okay. Yeah. I guess at some point you could do that. And again, they did the minor league phase, but they just didn't do the major league phase on that. And yeah, you got all the free agents that are going to be shuffling around, different teams. We won't really be able to get all the content we want out of it because it's just too much. We have too many lemons to make lemonade out of.
And all the international players who don't have visas at the moment, they can't just, I'm sure they're going to expedite them, but they can't get a visa overnight and be in Arizona the next day. So that's going to take some time too.
Yeah, it's a rough setup, obviously, all around. Have you talked about the minor league season starting and prospects? Have you dug into some of the names? If you have to go down and talk to a lot more of the minor leaguers than normal, is it really Veen, Romo, Benny Montgomery? They're kind of the top 3 on the list, or do you have some other interesting players worth chatting up?
I think those are the big names. I'm interested to talk to some of the draft picks from last year. Jaden Hill had Tommy John surgery right before the draft. So I'm very interested to see where he is at right now. Joe Rock, who has the best name for a Rockies player.
Yes. Lefty too. I like that.
Yeah, he did pretty good in his first season. Chris McMahon, not related to Ryan McMahon, but he had a really good year. I think he was in high A last year. So kind of interested to see where he is. There's not a lot of pitching depth right now, so kind of curious to see how those lower level pitchers have done.
For sure. I think Chris McMahon is related to Ryan McMahon the same way Tyler Kinley is related to President McKinley. I think that's for you, Susie, out there.
I actually had to ask. I was like, are they related? And everybody was like, not at all.
But Chris McMahon's uncle is actually Vince McMahon, owner of WWE. No relation. all these people with their McMahon's name. Ed McMahon? You might not know who that is.
No.
Don't know Ed McMahon. Hooah! All right. No, that's Al Pacino. That's different. That's a different. He was on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Remember, not
all
hip.
things that right over.
Yeah.
There you go, as you said. Well, this has been fun. What are some of the big things for people to look out for over there at the Gazette?
Yeah, we have all 4 beat writers set in Denver now, so be sure to follow our other sports writers for Avs, Broncos, and Nuggets. I'm very excited to be bringing a lot of features this year. That's what I think I do best. I have some really big ideas. I'll be at minor league camp next week, which starts on Sunday bright and early, so look for some prospect coverage next week.
What were some of your favorite exclusives and longer stories that you did from the past year? Because I was impressed. I liked all the work that you did, but what was one of your favorite ones for either people to go back and take a look at, or just, again, for you just really enjoyed doing it?
I think my favorite was I had like a whole Germán Marquez month. I think it was like the month of June to July when he almost threw that no-hitter, and then he made the All-Star game. I was just really proud of all that content that month. After he threw the no-hitter, I did sort of like a next day piece, and he like dropped his line about how he sat in his uniform for so long after that game, and then he was just so hungry he had to go get pasta. And I just turned that into like a little funny story. I thought that was cute. And then at the All-Star game, I actually sat with his wife for a little bit and talked with her. His wife and his son were not in the U.S. for the beginning of his playing career.
Wow.
So this was the first year they'd ever seen him play in person. He was able to get them visas, and I moved to Denver. So the All-Star game was obviously a very emotional moment for her, not being able to see the first however many years of his career. And this year, see him almost throw a no-hitter, and then see him make the All-Star game, hear it get announced at Coors Field, and then to get a pitch in his home stadium. It was just a really big moment for their family, and just meant so much to them.
Yeah, I didn't actually know that information till reading your article, so I thought that was good investigative journalism there.
Thank you.
It's good stuff. Where can people follow you over on Twitter, too?
Yeah, my username is at @D_Allentuck. Haven't been super active there as we haven't had baseball, but stay tuned for lots of coverage coming the next couple weeks.
More on TikTok, I think, right? More of the TikTok on D_Allentuck. No, maybe not.
No, it's my job as a young beat writer to show them the TikToks, but it's not my job to make them.
Well, that's what we need. We need like a press box TikTok. I mean, really, it's all going to be Thomas Hardy.
Yeah.
But you can run it. That's fine, and we'll pitch ideas and have you get Thomas's take on all these crazy
That'd
things.
be completely unhinged. I don't even know if
It would be
Thomas.
great.
I've shown him TikToks. I don't know if he knows what they are still.
As long as you put a camera in front of him, he's going to perform.
Right.
So it's going to be perfect.
Yes.
All right. So keep an eye out for that as well. All great things. We are over on Twitter doing all of our Rockies stuff at DNVR_Rockies. Remember, only 50 cents for your first month at the DNVR.com. I'm at Patrick D. Lyons. This has been a lot of fun. It's been great. But you know what they say about momentum? It's only as good as tomorrow's podcast. So I'll talk to you then.